Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Goose Man, and I'm gonna do a video here about LSU, a season in review. But before I get started, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, click all notifications, and give the video a thumbs up because we do a lot of sports videos on here, a lot of sports streams. So make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. All right. So having said that, this is gonna be a year in review for LSU for the 2021 season as it started off with a lot of promise, a lot of promise. LSU was a lot. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid. I really drank the Kool-Aid. I thought LSU was going to have a much better season than they did, but uh, things started to derail about a few weeks before the season started. It might have been. I can't remember when this really happened, but it was several weeks before the season started when Miles Brennan broke his arm and he was out for pretty much. Well, he was out for. They said he was going to be out for about 2-3 months, but it ended up being the whole season. So he probably was going to be the starter. Miles Brennan probably was going to be the starter this season. So I've been interested to see what would have happened if he would have been the starter the whole year, but it just didn't happen that way. As Max Johnson was the starter for the whole season. And they went to UCLA to open the season up in the Rose Bowl, and a lot of hype for LSU, and they start off the season with a loss. They lose 38-27 as they just it was more of the same with the defense. They really couldn't. They tied it over the middle. That really gave them problems last year. It reared its ugly head in the opening game and couldn't run the football as LSU loses, and they're 0-1 to start the season to UCLA, and then that's when really a lot of fans really started wondering, is Ed Orgeron is he going to be the long term answer for LSU? And it worked itself out. Then he had two games against McNeese State and Central Michigan. LSU won those games 34-7, and then 49-21. So they won those two games that they were supposed to win. Nothing really to talk about those games. Then the SEC play starts as they go on a road against Mississippi State, a team that beat them the year before, and LSU outlasts them 28-25. As LSU led, like uh, they led 28-10 at one point in this football game, and it looked like they were going to run away with this game. But Mississippi State came back. They scored two late touchdowns, and they went for the onside kick, didn't get it. Another game where LSU just couldn't run the football. Another game where LSU just could not run the football. We had 63 yards on the ground and 2.3 yards per rush, which is not very good. But LSU did get the win over Mississippi State, and they were 1-0 in conference. And then the next two games is when the season really started to go down for LSU, as they had a home game against Auburn. They lost 24-19, which they led pretty much the whole game. LSU they had the lead in the fourth quarter and couldn't hold it. Auburn squeaked out a victory the first time since 1999 since they beat LSU in Baton Rouge, and that's when things really started to. And I think that's when things really started going south for Ed Orgeron, and you can see the writing on the wall after that game that things were not going to end up well for him. So they lose to Auburn 24-19. Then they go on the road against Kentucky and they get demolished 42-21. And Kentucky just ran all over us. We couldn't run the football again. As and then they're 1-2 in conference, and things are just looking very bleak for Ed Orgeron. And then they go back home and beat Florida 49-42 as Ty Davis Price sets the record for most rushing yards as a running back. As LSU even at the series 2-2, but what happened the next day? Ed Orgeron was let go at coach at LSU, but he was going to coach the rest of the season. So they beat Florida 49-42. Then they go on the road against Ole Miss and Alabama. They lose back-to-back games 31-17 Ole Miss, 20-14 against Alabama. Probably they had some chances to beat Alabama, couldn't get it done, and so they lose two games. And then they go back home and they play Arkansas and they lose that game in overtime 16-13. So there was a stretch of three games, and two of them LSU had chances to win. They didn't get it done, and now they're faced with the daunting task of having to win the last two games to get to a bowl game, and that's what they did. They beat UL Monroe 27-14 in a very ho hum game. That game just was just I know mean, they won, but it just was it was a very boring game. But they did what they had to do. Then they go home against Texas A&M, and they score late in the game. In the last few seconds, they score a touchdown pass from Max Johnson to Dre Jenkins. It was 27-24. They get the victory over A&M, and then they're set to go to a bowl game. They're 6-6, and then a lot of opt-outs. Max Johnson opts out. Tydavis Price opts out. Damone Clark opts out. A lot of opt-outs for LSU, and then they had to start a quarterback they had to start a quarterback. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They had to start a receiver at quarterback. I'll get it right in a minute. And LSU was behind the eight ball that game the whole way. They didn't play well at all. As Kansas State beat them 42-20. So LSU ends the season on a 6-7 note, which gives them their first losing season since 1999, and that was the last time that we I would say fired a coach, but Les Miles got fired. So and Orgeron got fired. But 1999 was also a season where we fired our football coach and ended up with Nick Saban. So hopefully this bodes well for LSU going forward next year with Brian Kelly. It's going to take a few years for him to get his culture set in, because the culture was broken. The culture has been broken at LSU since 2019. So, but 6-7 record for LSU, not what we wanted to have, but it's what we had. So, just hopefully next year is a little bit better year for LSU. But they're going to have to, Miles Brennan's going to have to stay healthy. He's been hurt the past 2 years. He's been hurt. He got hurt against the Missouri game in 2020, and then he got hurt before the season started. Last year he got hurt. He's gonna have to stay healthy for LSU to be successful next year. Have a good one, and I will see you guys next time. And go Tigers!